Hey, Fitzy here, back at it again with another one. 60s GM cars. Chevs are fine, you can buy a lot of aftermarket parts for them. But you get into Pontiacs, Olds and Buick, like this one here, it's very hard to get any body panels for them. Especially when it comes to body mounts. You can't buy these for the Buicks. When they rust out, what are you supposed to do? Patch them all up? No. You build a new one. Stick around. Okay, so we're back at the Buick. And the last video, if you haven't seen it, I've done the repairs on this section back here, made up the pieces and everything for here. If you want to look at, check this video out ahead of time, link will be in the description below. It's rust repair on 60s trunk floors, I think it was called. I can never remember the name of my own videos. Anyway, just check it out and you'll get caught up to date. What we're going to do on this one now is we're going to do the repairs to the mount. I never got in detail on the mount because I removed the mount. It's better to remove the mount to do this repair because it's kind of hard to work it from underneath and get the pieces and everything, get all this tidied up and whatnot. If you try to repair it with the mount in place, it becomes a tangle, so I removes the mount. Now, that mount there looks good as it sits there, but when you turn it over and you start looking at it, you start seeing issues. There's a hole up here. See? There's cracks in it there with holes in it. So I've decided I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remake that entire mount. Instead of trying to fix it, you could probably sit down and start patching it up and whatnot, but I think it'd be just as easy to make a new mount and start from scratch with it. What I'm going to use with that is I have some metal here. This is stuff I got kicking around. It's scrap steel. What is the measurements on that? What's the thickness on that? It's 14 gauge, as I measure it there. Yeah, 14 gauge. A lot of you usually ask me on that. So that's the how thick it is. That's basically the same as what's in this here, 14 gauge metal. So I'm going to go ahead now. I've made mounts before in videos. I'm doing this the same concept. You would sit down and try to make all this level here. I'm going to make this here and this entire bottom section all one. I'll trim this out and cut this out later because I want to keep this flat. If you try to build this piece here separate and try to build the top sides, this here will be up and down, everything. As long as I got a flat platform to start with, I should be fine. So I'll turn this over here and I'll bring this up because I got to bend it up here. Wants a bit of access here. Here it wants a bit of access over here. I'm going to end up welding this piece here on after the fact. So I'm going to turn around, I'm going to come up here and I'm just going to cut this off and clean up this piece of metal and get it ready for making a mount. A few of you see me using the electric grinder, but a while back I picked up this puppy and I haven't used it. The reason why I haven't used it because I had only the small batteries. As you can see, the small batteries, I had them, and I picked up this one here the other day, this larger battery. It's still not the biggest battery of them all. So I'm going to give this a whirl today and see how long that lasts. And then I'll just go back to that one again until I get some bigger battery again. Received a little package in the mail. I want to cover this first. I want to send thank you out to Kelly Jones from Livingston, Tennessee for sending me up a little goodie pack. Me and him have been chatting back and forth. He says I've helped him out in his projects, which is great. He set me up with some sandpaper samples. He set me up some sandpaper, a couple of discs, and some stickets. These are going to be wonderful when I goes at that girl there. They'll be put to good use. I want to send out a thank you to Kelly for graciously sending me some sandpaper. Thank you very much, sir. I thought they were just regular flap wheels. Just look at that, look. They're very cool. I said they're great for doing it around inside corners and whatnot. So I'll give them a whirl when it comes time. Anyway, thanks, Kelly. So I went ahead and I cut the piece of steel out, as you can see here now, and then went ahead and I cleaned it all up. Removed, there's a scale on the metal, as you can see, from this type of steel. When it gets into heavier gauge of steel, there's usually a scale on it. One little trick that I does is, like, I'll strip it with a 24 like this here, but sometimes these here wear on easy and you cut them down and whatnot, like I've showed you before about cutting down. But one thing I've learned over the years is that if you cut them like this, you got more bite on these edges, right? So you'll do more damage and cut off material a lot better with them cut like this. I just trims them off, you know. They're not perfectly symmetrical or not like that. I just start cutting across and across and across and work my way around. Sometimes some are longer than the others, but it's a just neat little trick. This here will cut a lot more. It's great for when you're stripping off this scale. Works fantastic for that. So just a quick little tip. Now I got that done, I got this straightened away, I got to go ahead now and I got to start marking out where I'm going to put my bends. I'm going to put these two bends in here first. I'm going to bend this across here and I'm going to cut nothing out, lay it in place. I'm going to put a bend here and a bend here and follow through to these two bends. Now the bend is wider up here than it is down here. So I'm going to play around with this now and get two of them marked out. Now the more I size this up, I see the way this steps up here and the way it steps up here more. Now, I'm trying to figure out why it does that, because under a close inspection, you can see these here go straight back through. Same with on the other side, that goes straight back through. That hasn't been tampered with. So all I can see is that up in this corner here, there used to be a large gap, because what I'm noticing here is you can see the pull on the spot weld that's on the floor pan. That was there previously. That's really, really deep there. If you lay an edge across it, you can see how deep that spot weld is. So that used to pull down into this panel. So I want to say there was a large gap here, which a lot of debris and everything got into and lodged up here. It's probably the reason why this corner here rusted out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the height the same as this one down here. So it just steps over this section here. It'll just step over this. It'll be a small enough gap to go in it. It'll lay flat there and it'll lay flat here. I can't see this having to be on an angle like such. It'll be a big gap down here on the bottom side then, if we do it that way. All I notice is that from when you turn it over, the mount is parallel to the bottom side here. But up in this corner, everything gets thrown out of whack when it gets up to here. You look at this mount across this way, and it's pretty well level right across the top edge of it. But why this corner was low, I really don't know. So I got it marked out here now. As you can see, I got the same distance across. I'm going to fold this up, fold this back to give me this bend here. This little bend here. So then I got that. And that'll be the same over here. And then I can go on and start building the rest of the mount. Now I went ahead and I marked the lines off. As you can see, I moved it down another one. I wasn't fussy on this one up here because it was a bit tight to the top edge. So I just moved it down a bit. So now I'm just going to bend this up. Bend it back and then bend it the other way again. Just so it's flat. Hopefully it does this right. Move you out a bit. See if I did this right. Guess what? Never done it right. I made the bends backwards. This was supposed to bend this way and that was supposed to bend that way. So I gotta flatten this all out again now and do it again. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Any metal guy or bodyman that's around us don't make mistakes. Well, that's highly unlikely, trust me. I've made a lot of them, and I just made one that time. The problem with it was, is I got this side here, and I should have marked it on the other side for my first bend. Which I'm going to do here now. Flip it over and mark it. Like so. If you want to, you can probably go and scrap the entire piece and get another piece and start from scratch. That's not what I do. I'll just turn around, I'll hold this up, and when it all gets its shape back again, it'll be fine. See, I went over and rebent it again. Oh, looks best kind. Same piece of metal. I never scrapped it, and I got upset myself. I just went over and I fixed my problem. So now I got to put this on here. I got another bend I got to make. This will follow along here. This one here. So I'm going to mark this up here now. So this lines up on this edge here, like so. And down here on this edge here. That's the way that'll go, like that. And I got to mark along here and bend that up on a 90. Got it marked out where it wants the bend put to. Make sure every time I put some marker on a piece of metal, is usually that's the side that's facing up, so that's where the bend's got to be. So that's the reason why I end up making a mistake before, bent it the wrong way. This guy going to 90. This 14 gauge is a lot harder to bend. That tab done. I went ahead and I bent up this end here, got that fitting up there, and I came over here and laid this in place. Now you wonder why I made it so big and so wide, and I never made 10 plates and whatever. When I lay this in place here now, I can move this back and forth here to find the perfect spot for that to go. Don't have to be precise down here or up here, but as you move it along, you can see it changes. If it doesn't fit, it goes down too far and it's tight. So I know now roughly where that got to go. So now I'll just scribe this along here, mark this out. I'm going to weld this edge on later, but I'm going to leave it a little bit long here because I got to put a roll in it. If you look at it, there's a roll, big large roll on it. So I'll roll it up. It'd be very hard to roll this entire edge here because I find you can only roll halfway through the lip. You can roll roughly 1/4 of an inch comfortably without distorting stuff. When you start getting into 3/8 of an inch, 1/2 inch, and over an inch, it really gets hard. You can do it if you had a shrinker stretcher and all that type of stuff. We don't have that. We got a grinder and a hammer and a welder. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to mark this out here, mark this along here, and trim up this section here. So all I did, I went around and marked it. You can see it over here. Made it a little bit longer, going along there. Marked it along here, marked it up here, so then here's what I'm left with. I'm going to go trim this out now. Cut the whole thing out. Put the one battery, it's still going. I'm going to change the blade in it. I'm impressed with that. Don't even imagine what I can do with a bigger battery. Deadly. The mount clamped on top of it. I'm going to use this as a guide, and I'm going to take the grinder now and just grind this off with the 24 grit here. So all I'm going to do is grind that down there, round out that edge there, and dress it around, and go around and tidy up the corners and edges. I'm going to leave that a little bit long for now. That can be trimmed off, and over here, same thing. So I went ahead now, I got it all cleaned up, rounded out, the edges are all done. And like you're saying myself, but Tony, you're only going to use this much of the lip, why don't you cut center out of it? No, because this is all nice and flat. This is staying flat. Everywhere I lays it, it goes flat. The shape is there. The last thing I'll cut out was that piece. And realistically, I really don't need to cut it out. It'll just give more strength to the mount. Right? All you got to have is so as the bolt goes through it there. As long as you paint inside of it, you'll be fine. But I got this all made up. And like some of your questions, Tony, why don't you just repair the mount? Look, it's all thin there. How rusty that is. You see where it's cracked there and gone there. It's really thin. And it's all split up. Where's it split up to? Right there. Rusted out, cracked along there. It looks good when you put it there. That looks like a real good mount. Clean that up, that'll be perfect. But that's not the case. Now that I got this made, the next thing I'm doing, I'm going to work on getting this rolled edge in her. Now you can see this starts straight here and then it starts to turn here. I went ahead and I marked it. See? I marked it right at the bottom of the turn. And then I noticed that right along there it's all going to be parallel. So I marked it. So I know that's how much I got to turn. I got to roll it up. So I'm going to work that there now with the dolly. Roll this. These edges are going to be tricky. That edge here. I'm probably going to have to split that there now. It's probably best if I did that. The roll is kind of hard to roll that. So all I did is I just cut it so I could roll it. Roll the edge. So there it is, I got the roll on it. As you can see, I hold it up this way. You can actually see, if I can get it placed there, you can actually see it rolled through half the roll, see? Focus, there you go. And when you look at this way, it looks good along there. You can see now the gap that was back on this side, huh? How high that is. And that pulled that down to that mount. Why it was like it, I don't know. So I'm going to correct that. It's going to be very hard to notice it. So when I get it all done. Now that I got that done, now I can start working on these top sections. This section here and the sides here. I'm going to work on making all this here, top and the two sides, in one piece. Not one piece, but in 3 or 4 pieces. And weld it and dress it. I'm not going to put it on this here till all this out here looks good. So then all I got left to dress is this lower section down here after the fact. A lot of you asked about that, grinding in the inside edges and stuff. So we're going to go over that too. So let's start making the top panel and the sides. All I did is I figured out how long I needed it, how wide I needed it, and I transferred it over on this piece of plate again, and I measured it up and I measured it out. And I'm just going to cut a square piece out. If you want to make a template of this, by all means do so. You might find it easier or whatnot. I just find that I like to start with a square piece of metal, and I'll start trimming it, marking it, and doing it all after I get the piece of metal prepped and ready to go. Blade number 2 on that battery. Well, it's still going strong. Now I got that all cleaned up, ready to go. Now all I'm doing now is I've got to put this bend in it next. That's the first thing I'm doing. I'll lay this on top of this, it doesn't fit in it right, because I know I haven't got enough material here when I put the bend in it. So I'm going to have to trim a bit of this off so I can slide this down more to get it to bend across here. So I'm just going to trim this off and just roughly trim off a piece of it. I'm impressed with that so far. Now that'll fit there. That'll be perfect. I'll just size it up now, make sure I'm not out to the edge nowhere on anything. And I got lots of material on the back side. So now I'll mark where I want to bend it. Maybe I'll just mark it this way. The angle that way. There we go. Got a straight edge right on there. There's a little away. And I'll just lay this in place to see what it looks like. Now I put a bend in the metal. It's about a 45-degree bend. But now I need to trim this off so it will fit in here better. So I can mark the rest of it. So all I'm going to do now is I take a measurement from here to here, which I found out was a ruler. Now up here is different because I changed the angle on it. But I'm going to use that there, so I'm just going to lay that straight edge across there and mark it along there. And that will be my cut line. So this is all I'll do. And that will be my cut line. Okay, I got two of them clamped together. Up here I got the angle laid in there and fitting across the edge, as you can see. Now it interferes up here. Ooh. Interferes up here where this drops down a bit, but that's fine. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a marker and roughly draw that out along that there. Like I was saying, if you want to make a template, by all means do so. This is just the way I am. I've been looking at all these years, so a template might have been easier, but hey, we all have our way of doing things. Apparently, I just tried this, and the video wasn't running. But anyway, so I'm going to show you this again now, and I already went ahead and started cutting stuff. How I scribed that there is I had the screwdriver right here, and I just put it inside there. I sharpened the end on it. It's a little pick for picking that things, and I just scribed it in along here like so. That's how I scribed it, and went it around the back side. So then when you take it apart, what's left is the scribe marks. In here now. Yeah, there you go. See the scribe marks from the scribe coming up around. And I already started cutting this side, right? So, I figured I'd just show you that. How are you cutting it? With a grinder. Does everything with a grinder. It's a curved line. Also does it with a grinder. All I've done is I scribed it. Now I'll go back and I'll just keep going along that line there till I cuts through. Finally found the end of the battery, but that went really long. Let me shut off the grinder here. That was hot. That piece of metal was hot. Just remember that. Don't grab it with your bare fingers. Anyway, that's all he does with it. Now I got it all test fit in place. Sizing it all up here. And I'm noticing this side here is fitting up pretty good. Going up along here. And I got to round out these edges here. But when I turn around this way here and look straight in at it, you can see that it's still too wide. Right? So I got to trim off so much of this here, which I don't mind. I'll just trim off a bit at a time. Right? Work up to it, creep up to it. Don't worry about trying to make everything perfect the first time. I'd rather cut a piece out and fit it and it'd be too big and be able to trim it down, then this would be too small and have to add to it or start over again, right? So, and one thing I'm going to do here, I'm sizing up because when I put the sides on it, there is a rolled edge on this, okay? I'm going to do that with weld. I'm not going to get in the roll on the edge of the steel here. I'm going to weld it inside and put a nice heavy bead on the inside of it, and then I can roll the outside edge to get that nice rolled edge on it. So it makes work a lot easier, so I haven't to worry about rolling this edge and rolling the other edge, trying to weld through it. Right? I'll get the strength there by welding it. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to trim up this here on the inside here, and I'm going to round out these edges and get it fitting better. So I trimmed it, and I grinded it, and I trimmed it, and I grinded it, and I trimmed it, and I grinded it. There's what I got. That fits right on over top of that there. Fits down here's a bit high here because of the way it's shaped. Going along here. On there now, if you just look at this here, bring over this piece here. And that's to start to take shape. So now that's done. There, the way I got them two pieces to make. Now I got to turn around and make a strip that'll go right around here. Now the key with this is, if you look at it, you got everything else done. You take one step at a time. You look at it. Now if you look at that, that don't come down on a 90-degree angle all the way around. So you can't. It'd be hard to do this in one piece. Okay, you'll do the two sides and you'll do the front because this is on an angle. I should say, like if you look at it, this is on an angle. It's not straight up and down. This is on an angle, not straight up and down. Same with the front side, right? So when you look at it this way, you can see the way that it goes. It's on a slight bit of an angle going down into this here. So that way you'll take that into apart. So I'll make up a couple of strips now, a few strips, and make them wider. And I'll trim it off after the fact. But all I want to do is make it so that it fits in along here first. And I'll make these wider. And I'll weld them onto this here. And I'll make sure I got the angle all the way around. I'll probably make a nose piece separate and two sides. So I'm going to go cut a couple of strips out now that I can get. Okay, I went ahead and I cut out strips, two side pieces and a piece to the front. If you notice, this one is wider. The reason why it's wider is this is the front section that we got to do here. Now this is not on a 90-degree angle, and what I mean by that is that the metal itself does not go straight up and down. It's laid back a small bit. So when we curve the shape around this here, it's going to be hard to do. And I'll show this with a scrap piece of steel. If you just roll this around and make a round shape out of it, right? Like so. When you lay that down flat, that's at 90 degree. Now the problem you got is you got to raise it up like that to get an angle on it. So what you do is you start with a wider piece, then you can cut the angle out of it, and when you put it on the angle, you'll get the proper angle. So I'll roll this piece to get the angle there. Like you're not going to make, by rights, this piece here, if you look at it, there's my marker. If you look at it, if you actually made a template of it, this is what your shape will be like. That's what it will actually look like when it's done. I'm making it out of a flat piece of steel. Like if you made a template, that's where the piece of steel that you'll end up having to cut, to roll that around there to get that. The problem you got is trying to get it to fit properly. So all I've ever done is I've made them wider piece of steel. I'll curve that around that there, and then I'll just twist it to where it's lower here and higher here. Then I get the proper angle that I'm after. So I'm going to go ahead now, roll it up and show you. You see I got a rough shape there now. I'd play around with that some more now, and I'll get that to roll and fit in there tighter. So I'm going to do, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on an angle. You can see what happens when I put it on an angle. So all I'll do is I'll do that, and I'll raise it up, and I'll get my angle. Here's all I got done. I got it rolled around. I got it fitting in place so it's nice and tight. Now back here in these back corners here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack weld them right here, just a little bit, and then I'm going to lower this section down. So here's all I done. I put two tacks on either side. Now if you look at it, this here is on a 90-degree angle to that here. Now I got to get this so this is on a bit of an angle. So I tap down side here, as you can see, right? And by doing so, when you bring this up, the angle of this changes. See? So this is not 90 degrees to this no more. So all I need to do now is I got to go in there and find the angle that I wanted at, which is pretty close to there. I'll bring it up back a small bit. And I'll start doing some tacks in here and I'll weld it on the inside. I may have to let one side go because as I'm bending it around, it opens up a gap. So I'm probably going to cut one side and tap this in a bit more. Yeah. Okay, I went ahead and I cut that weld there now, and you can see I can move it, right? So when I drops it down, I could tighten this up on the inside here. But I had the angle there figured out, and I got about 1 inch on the bottom here for the angle. It's very hard to see what I'm trying to do here, but all I'm doing is I'm changing the angle here from here. This is at a 90-degree angle. Now you can make up a template to go in here, and it's very hard to do to get this angle right. This is all I ever done is made it out of wider pieces so I can get this angle right. I'll trim up the bottom and I'll trim up the top after the fact to make this straight all the way around here. Because right now this is too wide down here, and it's going to be too narrow up here. Well, it's going to be too wide here as well because I got more than enough material here. But you can see here the way it changes, and I'll change all that angle there. But I'm going to concentrate on getting the nose right down first before I do my sides. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to tack weld that in place there. Now I went ahead and I welded the inside all the way around. It doesn't matter, I'm going to be cutting this section off over here after the fact. But when you hold it out flat now and you look at this level, you can see that that's on an angle up front there now, right? Coming up the front there. And it is too high off the table. So what I got to do now is I'm going to trim off this top section here. And then I'm going to make a parallel line from here and cut this back this way here on both sides here, so I can get this laid flat on the table and get it to height, this height here, off the actual mount itself. And I'll just trim down this bottom section where I'm happy with it. Now I went ahead and I cut the top off it, made it flush, as you can see now. Now you can actually see the angle that is on, comes off of here and then falls down here. So there's my little angle that I'm after. Now the thing with it is, if you look closely at this here, you can see there's all different heights around here. I got to make this parallel now. I was playing around here sizing this up. That is pretty close to the height of that there. So if I ran this tape to give me a straight edge around here, like so. Just ran right off the top edge there. Still a bit warm after cooling this down a couple of times now. But if I just ran that around the top edge here, you can see I got a parallel line. Now, I'm not going to cut to that. I know where it's to. I'm going to come down here and just go a line right off this here, parallel to that orange tape, to give myself a little bit of grinding room. Then I can flatten it out after the fact. So I'll just trim this off down here now. That's all I did. I cut it off, and it's parallel to the tape all the way around, as you can see. So now it's parallel to the top. So I can lay this flat on the bench, and then I got that little angle. Very subtle. Well, this makes all the difference in the world. So now what I got to do now, I'm going to go in, I'm going to finish this piece off. I'm going to trim off this side over here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to weld all this up out here. And then grind and round out this edge here. Because I got it welded on the inside here for strength. And so I'll get a nice round beveled edge on the outside of it like is on this here. And then we'll go on to the next step after that. Now you can see where I got it all welded up solid. Everything is done there now. Now, the trick with this is we got to get a rolled edge on this, but we're not going to do that right away. What I want to do now is get these welds flat and get this flat. So I'm going to weld the top, I'm going to grind the top flat, and I'm going to grind the sides. So we got a nice sharp edge going right around here, so we got something to follow by. If you just start rolling over on all this here, you're going to find that it's going to be up and down, around, all the way around. You're going to be trying to figure out how to get that nice round edge. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to grind this flat and get a nice sharp edge back there again. So there's all I went and did. I grinded her flat here and I grinded her flat here. So now we got a nice even line all the way around, as you can see. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in on a 45-degree angle and cut a line right along here. Now you can see how I grinded it then. You can see I got the even, back here is a bit off, so I got to widen that up a bit more there. But you can see that I grinded on a 45-degree angle and the size is the same all the way around. Except for back on the two corners. Back here I'll have to open it up a bit more. And back here I'll have to open it a bit more. So now I got an edge, going to an edge, and then this flat edge and a flat edge. So what I got done, I got the overall shape made, but I got a consistent lines going all the way around it. So all I'll do now is I'll bring this side down here so it's even along here again. And then I'll just go around, I'll round all this out. And there you do, just round off the edge of it, and you get a consistent roll off the top of it then. As you can see here now, it rolls off the top. So now we've got the front of it finished. When you stand back and look at it, when it lays flat, there's a little slight contour angle here. It's not straight up and down, as you can see. Now, we're going to move on now and do the sides. Now, the thing with the sides is that if you turn it upside down, these are straight on this corner. I got to tap this out. I'm going to tap that one out just so that it comes back on a bit of an angle here. And then I'll start fitting these pieces. Where are the two? These ones here. I'll start fitting them in place on the sides here. I'll tweak them up and bend them up and roll them around the sides like that. Now, I just went over and I tweaked this up a bit. I'll lay this in place in here. I'm going to overlap it up here because I'll trim that after the fact. Up here I'll overlap it, see? I'm not going to worry about butt welding that right now, it'll be too hard because of the angle, and I'll just trim that to fit after the fact. I'm going to get it welded in here first, so I got it held in place, and then I'll turn around and I'll trim the ends of it after the fact. It's a complicated piece, but like again, look, I finished one piece off. That is all now one piece. I'm moving on adding one more piece to it, and I'm just concentrating on this area here, nothing else. So don't let stuff get overwhelmed on you, because you look at that there, that's all done. I got the end of it all tweaked out like I said I was going to do. Right, that's finished. Now, I'll move on and do this one. Do the same process again. Tack weld it in place, trim it all up, weld it on, grind it off. I just went ahead, put it on the angle that I wanted it on, tack weld it in place, big chunk of metal there, lots of room to trim off. Now I'll go up here and I'll trim that there, so two of them will butt weld together there. I'll just clamp that onto that there now and I'll start cutting through it and trimming it up here so it fits right nice and dollying it in. And then I'll weld this on the inside as well. And then I'll dress the outside, you won't even know there's a join there. So I'll go do that next. All I'll do is I trimmed it off. It's the thickness of the blade, so I used the inside here as a guide with the blade. I took the grinder and I laid it up against this piece here, much the same as over here. Like I laid it up against that and grinded it down. So when I done this here, I just cut straight down through it. I wasn't worried about having a big gap there because it's pretty heavy steel. Right. So, and they're parallel, so now I'll weld them up on the outside. I weld it all up on the inside. I'm not going to remove this yet because it's my nice little handle I got on it now. So I'll weld all this up here, all this out here, and then I'll grind it all up. Might as well then, to get it all welded, I'll cut the end off of that then. So I went ahead, I welded it up on the inside, welded up on the outside, welded up on the corner here after I cut it off, and then I grinded it all down. And you can see what it looks like. Looks the same as what it would have been from factory. Little rolled edge on it. Like, you know, if you have many cars, there's many different type of cars that you got that you cannot buy reproduction body mounts for, and you're looking to do a real nice job on it, this is how you can go about doing it. I've made a lot of this stuff. This will hold through for pretty well almost any model car. But these 60s cars were always trouble because you can go out and you can buy this mount for a Chev, but you couldn't get it for a Pontiac, a Buick, or an Olds because it was a totally different car. This here, I think the Chev ones, if I'm not mistaken, are probably about this long. This same mount in the same area. So, you know, if you went out, like you could go out and buy the Chev mount, but it's not going to be the right one. You would think it would be, but it's not. And then you're going to be left with, you know, having to make something up. So you just take your time. And, you know, this is the type of thing that I always look at it. If once this car is all done and it's put up on a ramp and someone walks underneath it and walks back across it, they're not going to see big old knobs of welded back here and pieces welded across here and pieces welded in it. They're going to see a nice tidy little mount. There was a lot of time put in it, and 9-10 chances out of 10 they won't even know that this was replaced. It was done right. So I'm going to go ahead now, repeat the whole process again over here, finish off this side and get this mount ready to mount on this section here. So I went ahead, finished off the other side, Welded it all on the inside. And turn around and I grinded it all up, as you can see. That was pretty hot there. Let's cool down. It's not a handle. Yeah, it's not bad there now. But as you can see, it's all set up there. When you look at it there now, compare the two of them, the shape that it got to that one there. You can almost lay that one right on top of that one. Okay. And then when you look at it, the little detail is this. You look down the side of it, see the little tapered all the way around it. Look on the front of it, you can see it's a tapered edge. Down the side of it, it's a tapered edge. Right? There's a straight edge here in the front. But that's straight there anyway on that corner. Yeah, it's pretty straight in that corner. Yeah, that's not half bad. You can tap that out if you want. I'm probably going to tap that out a small bit there, right there, just to round it out a bit. But now we got the mount made up. Is that little detail of the rolled edge and the taper out here, because you would go ahead and you'd probably make this mount and you'd be looking at it going, there's something don't look right about it. And it's that little tiny taper. Okay, so now next thing I got to do now is I got to come over here and I got to fit this on this here. I'm really going to start taking shape now. Find out now where I got to trim this off here on the back side here so that it fits in there, and get it moved back far enough that it lines up on my mount and everywhere I want it to, and then I can weld it all on. So I'm going to trim that up there now and get it fitting better. Okay, now I got it fit in place. I trimmed it up on the back side here, trimmed it up, got it fitting nice up here. Then I played around getting it laid in position where I want to do, and tweak the sides of it here and tweak this out here a little small bit so it would match this side here. And then I measured off the top of this here to the bench, and how I did that is I took the ruler across there and took this machine here and measured up off the bench. I did the same thing over here in a couple of locations so that the mount is the same height. Done the same thing here. I got both of them the same height here. I grinded this down on the back side here to lower it. This side here, all I did is I took the grinder and I just grinded it down till it was the right height that I wanted, and to fit it in place. So now it's just a matter for me to find the exact spot that I want to position it and then start welding it on. I'm not going to paint nothing in here yet because I'm going to cut the back side out of this after the fact so I can paint it all and dress it, because I still had to weld the mount on it here where this went to here. I got a bolt there, I got a on C's, and weld to the bottom side of this here. But I'm going to concentrate on getting all this welded up in here and getting all that dressed so it's got a nice little rolled edge on it like this here. And then I'll weld it on the inside as well. Won't be too fussy. When you turn it over, you'll never see it unless you cut the carp again. I'm not going to do nothing with them welds. I'm leaving all that there for strength. That's nice and thick in there. You may be wondering all the grinding I've after doing out here on the outside, but this section right here is thicker than the actual metal itself. Okay? Right where them welds are too. It's all right nice and thick all the way down through this section here. So it's nice and strong. So I'm going to position this now where I want it, and I'm going to start welding it on. I got that tack welded in. This is pretty heavy steel, and it's still all one piece on the bottom side here. I'm going to go ahead now and go back here and I'm going to weld every inch or so. I weld an inch, skip an inch, weld an inch, skip an inch. Let it cool down. I keep an eye on it by just laying it on the bench here. We'll weld that up there. There it is, all welded up on the outside. I may have to go back and do touch-ups and whatnot after I grinds it. But what I'm going to do first, a little bit down, is I'm going to come in here now, and you can see now where it's all marked out from doing the welding. I'll just come inside here, and I'll just trim all that out there and take that piece out of there altogether, so that way I can paint the inside of this. So I'm going to go ahead now, I'm going to mark that and cut it out with the grinder. So I did, just cut her up along there, just cut on the inside of the weld, all around, just move the piece. Now still a bit still there, I'll trim it all back, clean it all up, and then I'll weld it in here as well to give it some strength on the inside. Some people might say, well, why don't you just make the lip after the fact? It's very hard to make this completely flat, okay? This is the best way I've found to ever make it, because I find if you makes this piece here and then starts adding lips to it, it's kind of hard. This is up and down, up and down, up and down. At least when you're starting off with a complete flat surface to start with, you'll get a lot better job done out of it. So I'm going to go ahead now, trim all this up, get this all welded up. Yeah, I went ahead and I grind it all up. It's pretty thick here on the edges. I don't think I'm going to bother to weld it up. I have a lot of welding out here, and I'm feeling it there, and it's a pretty good fit there. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to grind off this edge here and round out that edge there to finish it off. Now all I've done that, I've been asked about a number of times, and this is what it is: old grinding discs. If you look at an old grinding disc and you can see the round rolled edge on them, that's all I use. I got different sizes, you can look at them there, all different sizes saved up from all the times I've been doing it, and they all start this big. That's where they all start to, and I'll probably use this one because that one's round too. And I'll round out this edge along here. In the corners, I'll do with a die grinder. That's around the bench. This fella here, I'll grind that up there in the corners, dress it all up, and grind it down there. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to grind all this up. There it is, all grinded up. I have to re-weld a couple of spots again and just grind it up again. You can look at it and see the way it's all done. So now that I got that done and all that there is dressed up, is ready to go. Next thing I got to do now is I got to put this lip on her, raise that up, as you can see on the original one. Original one had this big lip on it, that welds onto the wheel well. So I'll go ahead now and I'll start making this up. I'm going to do a quick test fit on it to see how it fits on the car, and then I'm going to make sure that this here is going to fit all right, and then I'll just put a piece on it. I got a piece there on the bench, 2 pieces, there we go. Piece there, and all I'll do is I'll just weld it onto there like that, bend it around, weld that up there as well, and then I'll have that lip on it. There's this all welded on. Welded on the inside as well. All I'll do now is I'll just grind all that up, and I'll trim it up, and we'll do a twist fit. So there it is, all dressed up, nice lip on it. I'll put the little V in it there, like it's on this one. Then we're caked up a little bit more, but that's fine. That will be perfect. Right, and I grind it on the inside. You look at it up from the end, it's got a nice little rolled edge on it, going along the edge of it there. Nice big round rolled edge, so it looks original. So that'll be ready to go. So now the entire mount is made. All that's left to do with these now is to put just a dress hole there, which I'll put one there, and then mark it for the mount, and then drill a hole for the mount. And then I can turn around and set up for the, you can see the mount broke off on this. So I put the mounting bolt back into this one here. But what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go down underneath her and do a quick test fit on this here and mark the center hole. Okay, I went ahead, you can see it there where I got the mark 2. And I went ahead and marked the other bottom one, which is this one here. That can randomly go as long as it's in the center, in the same area. All I'm going to do is drill it out with a 1/8 drill bit first, and then I'm going to do a step bit, and that should take me up to the right size on both of them. And that one bit, that'll take you to the last one there, so I'll drill both of them out there now. There you have 2 of the holes drilled. Just use a simple little step drill on that. So now we got 2 of the mounts. We have the actual mounts actually finished now, to the whole point that, well, it's not quite finished yet. I got to fix that. This is the way the mount was bolted on from the bottom. You look at it here, you can see where it was welded to. It was just a square block, it was welded in place. I'm going to try and see if I can salvage this plate here. I'm going to turn around and chop off the end of this here, because you'll never unthread that. Clean it off flush to it, and then I'm going to weld a bolt, a washer on here, and then I'm going to weld a bolt on here, put lots of heat in it, and see if I can unbolt it. Challenge accepted. All I'm going to do first is I'm going to lop this off here, get this back flush, clean the top edge of this off here, because you'll never unthread this end over here. So I cleaned it off, and I cut it flush, and I grind it. You can actually see now where the bolt goes. So all I got to do now is I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to clean up the other side of it, so I can weld a washer onto it. Now, all it is, I cleaned it up around or so. I can slide that washer down over it, and I can weld that on down there. Give it lots of heat down, so I get close to the bolt there. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this large bolt over top of it. I'm going to weld it on up here, and I'm going to weld it on down here. So then I got it grabbed in 2 sections of that bolt. Before I do that, I'm going to lay this on this here, and I'm going to hit this with the hammer a few times to try to break this loose in here just by, you know, shocking it, hitting it with a hammer. That's all I'm going to do. Got the welder turned right up. Seems like a lot of welding, but we don't have heat for a torch. I haven't had a torch in years. Fail! If you don't succeed, repeat. Fail! Okay, after snapping it off twice now, this hasn't moved. What I'm going to do now is I got to turn it over now, and I'm going to drill a hole right down through the middle of that. Okay, attempt number 3, try drilling it out, fail, right? Yeah, I couldn't get the bits to go to 1/8 bit that went down through it. So now I've after reheating it again now with another washer, another nose. I've after getting moving a small bit here. One thing I did different this time, after I welded it, what I did is I cooled the bottom side of the bolt. I shocked it with water, trying to shock the threads so that it cooled down on the bottom side more. And I've done that with an old spray bottle. These are always fun. Trying to get, I got it moving, and I just put some spray WD-40 on it, the other side. Now I'm just trying to see if I can work it loose. I'm just going to rock it back and forth and let it walk itself. I'm not going to force it. Let the wrench go around on its own. Determination, that's what it is. And there we go. Yeah, little bucker, you know. I got. We're gonna tap down through that now. Clean out the threads. There it is, weld it in place. Just like factory. The way it was done, I just welded it on either side of it there. Got it all done, so this is ready to go. All I got to do now is I'm going to drill a few spot welds here along this edge here that I can weld on. And then I'm drill a couple on this back side here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it and drill the floor up here and drill the spot welds down through. So next thing for me to do now is go around. I'm going to mark all that, get the holes drilled in this, and get the holes drilled in the floor. So I'm going to put that back in place now and mark it and get it all ready so I can paint it. Okay, I got this all painted. Got it all ready. I painted all the sections that were going to be covered, and I'll paint all the bottom side of that now before I put the mount and everything else. I got that painted. I went ahead here in the trunk, and I, after marking everything out, I drill out the spot welds where I'm going to weld it in the trunk here. Down here I done the same. I got everything painted and ready to go so that I can put the panel up and there to be paint underneath it all. So I'm going to fit that mount in place now and weld it in. There it is, just one clamp hole in place, fits nice and tight against the panels and everything. I'll weld all this after. I'm going to go up top first. I'm going to weld all the plug welds on this here first and then come down and then do this section here and along here. There they are, all welded in place down here. It's all welded in place up here. All I got left to do now is grind up my welds. So there it is, everything's been welded up and all grinded up. That's done. There you have it, everything down here is all welded up. As you can see, I went ahead and I painted it. I put the mount back in, bolted it all back up, and it all looks factory original again. Doesn't take much. You can actually, as you can see, I built all this with simple tools and used just old scrap steel I had kicking around. And I just took my time, made one section at a time, dressed it as I went. Anybody want to take this now and dress it up and paint it? It would have been nice if this was off the chassis. Could have done a really tidy job on it all and painted it all up, but the customer, I think, is just blacking out the bottom of this car. So, but still in all, when it's put up on a ramp, anybody looks in here, they will see an original mount. They won't see a rusted out mount. Anyway, that's it for this one. I hope the tips were good, and until next time.